All right, guys, so we are slowly or quickly really starting to piece together the agenda of the Biden administration, okay? And quite honestly, guys, the agenda that the Biden administration is putting out is a lot more progressive than I originally anticipated, right? Because if you guys remember, he wants a very generous stimulus package of 1.9 trillion, in which he is planning to add to that with more spending on his economic plan, mainly infrastructure, in the next few months following up on that stimulus. Now, Biden is set to announce the most ambitious immigration bill that we've seen in a long time, okay? And quite honestly, guys, we're going to start to see a lot of interesting things happen here in the future as Biden starts to take office, because there's a lot of people with their hands out domestically and internationally that Biden made promises to, that are going to be looking to him to execute on his over-the-top promises, okay? But before we get in that, my name is Greg Foreman, and you're watching A Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share A Black Conservative Perspective, aka a leftist worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at GForemanBCP. Let's get it. All right, guys, so according to the New York Post by way of the LA Times, Joe Biden plans to introduce an immigration bill immediately, according to reports. President-elect Biden plans to move quickly to undo the Trump administration's most cherished agenda items, including introducing a bill that would allow 11 million illegal immigrants to become permanent U.S. residents and give them the right to pursue citizenship after an 8-year wait, according to immigration rights activists who have seen the plans. Okay, so it sounds like Biden's bill is going to allow 11 million illegal immigrants to become resident aliens and then lessen their path to citizenship. Now, I have not talked that much about immigration, if at all, really, on my channel and my views on it. But unsurprisingly here, I am a straight line Republican on immigration. And the reason why is because I do acknowledge the positive long-term economic benefits of increased GDP and productivity that comes along with immigration, mainly by way of population growth. I 100% recognize that, and I would not argue with anybody on that. However, I think it's also important to recognize the potential short-term negative effects of immigration as well, which includes, low-skilled workers who come over here and remain poor. Right? They use social services, which could have a strain on our social safety nets. And there also can be a short-term drop in wages. Now, generally speaking, the literature backs up these negative effects of immigration in the short term, but also the academic literature, for the most part, agrees that over the long term, immigration does increase GDP and productivity, primarily driven by population growth. So I'm acknowledging both sides of the argument. So that's why when people ask, I say, yes, I'm pro legal immigration, but I am vehemently against illegal immigration. Now, you libertarians might hate me for this and might disagree with me on this, because libertarians basically see closed borders as barriers to trade. And because of this, they feel that closed borders are inefficient and do not allow countries to prosper economically as much as they would if they allow a free exchange of skills and labor across borders. Okay, that's basically the libertarian argument. A lot of them won't open borders, right? So any libertarians, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that is a libertarian argument in regards to immigration. And they also don't believe that the government can select good immigrants, right? The government does not have the ability to selectively allow who's going to be the most beneficial to the economy and who doesn't. And that's where I really differ from the libertarians, because I do believe that the government should be involved in selecting who comes to this country and letting them be here, because quite honestly, guys, especially during a pandemic, we just can't be taking in anybody, okay? We can't just be doing that. Lax immigration policies will incentivize people to try to take dangerous paths to come over to this country, okay? And you cannot just let people in without vetting them, which is why we have a legal immigration process. Now, I also believe that our legal immigration process needs to be fixed up. I think a lot of people that are here illegally are because they overstay their visas, not necessarily because they're crossing the border illegally. Now, a lot of them do, but most of them, in fact, 62% of them, according to the Center of Migration Studies of New York, overstay their visas. So we need a better job of tracking who comes over here via visa and who's overstaying, and basically to figure out some process for correcting that. Okay, because just because you got a visa, you're only here for a certain amount of time. Once that time is up, you got to go and get in line to be here permanently like everybody else. I don't see what's so controversial about that, but apparently some people on the left think this is a racist view because, according to them, we are a nation of immigrants, which is true, but I don't necessarily consider myself an immigrant because I was born here, right? If you're going to make the argument that the U.S. is a nation of immigrants, then you can make the argument that the world is a nation of immigrants because everybody came from Africa and then they migrated across the world. So everybody's an immigrant, okay? I think that's really a silly response when it comes to these conversations. But here's the thing. When it comes to Democrats and immigration, my issue with Democrats is not necessarily about giving a pathway to citizenship for those who are illegally here, because I want those people to pay taxes, okay? And there's an argument to be made that they could possibly be taking jobs from other people who can have those jobs. A lot of them are working under the table. And although they do contribute to the economy, I want those people to be documented. I want to know how much they're actually contributing, and I want them to pay their fair share, okay, for all the beautiful services that they get to take advantage of here in the United States. They need to pay their fair share. So I'm not entirely opposed to that. But what I am opposed to is the fact that the Democrats refuse to tighten security measures and to clean up the illegal immigration in the first place, right? Because if you're going to create a pathway to citizenship where you're going to make these people resident aliens or whatever and then give them citizenship, why wouldn't all these other people in these other countries, right, in South America, for example, why would they just rush to the United States knowing that the Democrats are going to eventually get them citizenship? All they got to do is get across the border. Once they get across the border, they know they're not going anywhere. And they know eventually the Democrats can get them citizenship because the Democrats want them votes. Okay? They want them votes. And this is a part of the Democrat plan, guys. The Democrat agenda is so insidious in terms of how they try to control the vote, how they try to control our democracy. I mean, essentially, this right here, what Biden is proposing, is basically the Democrats' way of trying to get 11 million votes like that. That's what it is. As expected, Biden also plans to issue an immediate executive order to extend DACA, the Obama-era Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program that shields young people brought to the U.S. as children from deportation. The new order will keep the program in place for another 4 years, the activist said. Quote, I will introduce an immigration bill immediately, Biden told reporters January 8th. The new waiting period would shave 5 years off the 13-year delay required under current rules. The bill would not try to gain Republican support by linking the changes to border security or enforcement measures. The Los Angeles Times reported a sharp departure from past compromise attempts. That makes it, quote, the most aggressive agenda that we have seen on immigration reform from day one. Immigration advocate Hector Sanchez Barber of the group Mi Familia Vota told Politico. Quote, it's hard to see how any Republican jumps on board, GOP strategist Ron Gerdusky told the Post, but it's likely just the administration's opening offer. And then, quote, they're obviously going to make concessions to win over senators like Lindsey Graham and Ben Sasse. He said, I think Lindsey Graham and Ben Sasse support DACA and Dreamers. I think they are advocates of that. Yes, Biden's immigration agenda is aggressive, and I expect and hope the Republicans can get some concessions in terms of tightening up border security. Now, speaking of border security, sometimes it just amazes me how cause and effect works. So let's take a step back here. Remember, Biden said he's undoing all of President Trump's policies at the border, okay? Biden basically told the whole world that our borders are going to be a lot more open under the Biden administration. That's basically what he said. And guess what? Like I said before, if these people know how lax Joe Biden is promising to be, if they know the type of reforms and policies that Biden is pushing for, making it easier for illegals to become citizens and to stay here permanently, why would you not be running up to the border on day one? And I'm going to tell you, like these progressives, these immigrants are making Biden put his money where his mouth is early. Take a look at this video of a caravan from Honduras bursting through Guatemala border en route to the USA. So as you can see here, there's also other videos that you can find as well of a ton of people coming from Central America to the United States as a response to Biden taking offices and all the promises that Biden made. All right, guys, so there you have it. These immigrants that are coming from South America are coming to the border because they think Biden is soft as toilet paper on immigration, okay? And this is what happens when you make a ton of promises, okay? And the Democrats are probably applauding that because they see those people as potential voters. They see those people as the backbone of the Democrat Party in the future. That's why Biden told all the black people, right, during that meeting with the civil rights leaders, he said Hispanics going to be the majority of the population by 2040. Y'all might want to get in line with them, okay? Because the Democrat agenda is definitely focused on trying to convert illegal immigrants to Democratic voters. That's just, it is what it is, okay? That's why I'm so against abortion. And I think that us as black people generally need to start having more kids. We need to start having more kids, including me. I need to have some kids. But regardless, you know, a lot of liberals, they'll try to boohoo you and try to, you know, guilt trip you into being like, oh, well, why don't you want to let these people in? You know, are you such a bad person? And, you know, do you not have a heart? And honestly, guys, if any liberal ever tries to guilt trip you about wanting strict border policies, one philosopher friend of mine helped me think about this in a way that's a lot more clear, okay? The argument from the liberals is typically that these people are coming from a war-torn place, right, where their countries are under attack, you know, they're living in danger, and it's just not safe. That's why they're crossing thousands of miles walking to try to get to the United States. My philosopher friend said, if you're really going to be moral about this issue, you only can have it two ways. Either everybody can come in or nobody can come in, okay? If you're going to take the moral route on this. Because if somebody comes to the border and they say, hey, I'm hungry, I'm starving, they're not necessarily coming from war, but they're just saying, I'm starving. According to the moral Democrats and the liberal argument, you should just let that person in, because how many people die from starvation every single year? Millions of people die from starvation. More people die from starvation than they do from war, right? So from an ethical standpoint, according to the liberals, if you don't let the random dude in Mexico who's down on his luck, who can't feed his family, who's starving, if you don't let him in, then you're a bad person, right? And obviously, we cannot let every person that comes to the border that says they're hungry in, right? Otherwise, we would truly have an open border, which I don't think most liberals or Democrats are actually for. Nobody's for complete open borders, okay? So these liberals who want to boohoo and cry and guilt trip you about border policy need to choose a side. Either they need to start talking about letting everybody in with no restrictions or letting nobody in. Because when you pick and choose based off who you believe is in a situation that deserves an exception, that's not the moral high ground. Because when you choose somebody to come in here just because they are leaving a war-torn country, that doesn't necessarily mean you're helping out the most needy. Because more people die from starvation than they do from war. Right? So again, that's why I take the stance of being able to pick and choose and not trying to get on the whole moral route with terms of how the government picks and choose. What we need to pick based off what's best for the current citizen. Okay, that's what we need to do. That's how we need to operate. So that's the reality situation. This stuff is complex, and there's really no simple answer. But generally speaking, I am pretty Republican on this issue, as I am very pro legal immigration. I think that when we're trying to bring people over here, we need to be bringing, the best, like President Trump said, first and foremost, those who are going to contribute to the economy, and then those who are definitely down on their luck. But we have to be very selective. We should be very selective about both processes and trying to minimize how many people are here illegally, because countries should have sovereign borders, and they should never be letting people over here not knowing who they are or vetting them thoroughly. I just think that as a matter of principle. So we'll see what happens with these immigrants coming to the border. And this is going to be a very early test under the Biden administration to see if he's going to renege on those promises, or is he just going to let them all in? We'll see. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.